what it feels like to fall. This is what it feels
Before we start the interview, I was going to ask you a couple quick questions, if it's okay with
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we talk about your creative process, guitar playing, singing, what you teach at Berklee, how you write music, how you translate that to different players, the Blue Room, the Singers Collective? By the way, is the Blue Room and or the Singers Collective, what's your role in both of those businesses or entities?
Blue Room is kind of a double umbrella. It's what I call, the umbrella of anybody who works with me on stage and who collaborates on stage. And it's also an umbrella for, essentially a production company if people are looking for music.
But are you the founder of that organization? I know it's a
Yeah.
collaborative, but you're the spearhead behind it, though. You created it.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And what about the New York Singers Collective?
The New York Singers Collective was started by, there were probably about 50 singers in New York who all came up with an idea. I'm not the spearhead of that project, of that at all. It's sort of a site where people could go or looking for freelance singers.
Okay, good. So that's just like a friendly link out to that thing that you happen to be a part
Exactly.
of. Just like your
Exactly.
link to Berklee. Okay, good. But Blue Room, the production company and the umbrella for your artistic production company, I mean, is something that you spearheaded.
Yes.
You created that, and it's a collaborative, but really it's your baby. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really great. And do you mind if I ask about, the difference between when you were younger as an artist and then after you had kids and now, and what you would tell young people?
Oh, for sure. I could talk for hours about that.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, great. So you're comfortable. Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, Well, then I'll just give it a shot. And just so you know, my team will take time to edit this, and so you don't have to be shy about anything. Like we'll go through it, and if there's something that we'll try to not leave something in that you would feel uncomfortable with. And also, what I like to do is use if people listen to NPR, could be considered like uncomfortably long segments of music because I'm really into like sharing people's music. So, so I was hoping to talk about some of the songs on your record too, and just ask you to like kind of prompt, maybe a few of the different songs and talk about them, and then we'll share like minute-long clips or something if you're cool with that.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Have you already targeted songs that you would like to play, or are you?
I listened to the excerpts on your website, and so it was hard to say, but I would probably say the title track, and then there was I listened probably 4 or 5 excerpts. One of the only ones that I noticed was like Up was like What You Buy or something, what I would buy.
Buy that thing.
Thing, sorry. And some of the others were more down. So I would just say anything you'd like to talk about, honestly.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I'm not more prepared than that, but I figured you're so eloquent and you know more about you and your music than I do. So if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we can even edit it later, and I can say like, hey, tell us about one of the tunes on the track. And, all right, great. Well, then we're gonna start the interview, and it would be helpful if I had a couple things. Janie Barnett.
Yes.
All right. Janie Barnett, thank you so much, and welcome to Creative Strings Podcast.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really blown away by you. This is the first time I've met you, and this is the first person in 24 people that I've interviewed for this podcast that wasn't someone that I've known for a long time, which speaks to how much I was blown away by everything I've heard in your music and saw on your website and was told by the promoter for your new project. Can you remind me the name? I know it has to do with a river, your new amazing record, which I've heard.
You See This River.
You See This River.
You See This River.
And you've got this record coming out, and there's all this poetic language on your website, quotes from you, really drew me in. I thought, wow, this artist is the whole package. You have a distinctive voice, an original sound. You're obviously writing a lot of the music, co-writing, coordinating, producing, and the lyrics and the stories about someone who's lived life, and also you've you say on your website, or I mean, it says on your website of all these other things you've done as a more chameleonic musician, you know, the ability to be stylized, or you know, to emulate this kind of sound for producers when they need a singer on a backing track, or not on a backing track, but when they need a singer on anything, they'll say, we need this kind of thing or that kind of thing. Give us this voice. Give us, and so you've done that, which I can relate to. But you have a very personal, individualistic sound, and you've created this apparently over a few decades in your career, and had kids along the way. So I'm so drawn into you. I'm excited to meet you.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure I have to say anything else. You've just kind of said it all. It took a long time to put this whole package together. So that's one of the main things that I tell kids that I'm mentoring these days is like, go ahead and be patient. If that's what it takes, you're going to take as much time as you need to find your own voice, which is what happened with me. Yeah.
And you're teaching at Berkeley, and you've got a lot of students who are presumably vocalists, young vocalists. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the voice department, but we all have our specialties, and the department sends me their singer-songwriters, since that's the life that I have led, as well as people who are intrigued by my resume as a freelance singer, you know, people who play instruments. I get people like me who are just starting out, you know, and since I always like to say that I had my share of mistakes right in the beginning. It's kind of a nice payback or give back, excuse me, to, you know, point out a few things to them and help guide them. Yeah. Or open the doors for them. Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of parallels between being a bowed string player and being a vocalist, in terms of that we have certain skills. Well, specifically that there may be certain skills that we don't get trained in, and that then when we join in the creative community with guitar players and rhythm section players, that there's this like lost in translation element, and that we might inherently feel sort of insecure about not knowing the lingo or having all the same skills that the guitar players and the drummers. Does that ring a bell at all? I mean,
interesting. I think in the beginning that was probably true for me. When I was first thrown in the ensemble, area, I mean, I played as just a solo as a kid coming up. I just was on my own in coffee houses. And then when I got to an ensemble environment, you know, you do have a sort of a sense like, what am I doing? And even having some training, you know, and they have, sometimes a rhythm section has a secret language that you have not heard anything about. And you have to play catch up, and you have to find your allies too, is what I kind of felt with my early ensembles, is like, who can I pull aside and ask to sort of bring me up to speed and train me, and, you know, understand that I have something to offer, but maybe I need a little tutorial on the language that's being spoken. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, you know, if you have good ears, you're going to understand things. One thing you reminded me of is that when I was probably 19 and I was in a band and I was really working with a drummer for the first time, and I couldn't describe what was wrong. And I kept saying ridiculous things like, I'm hearing too much bang, 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 or something ridiculous. And it was like through the years, I figured out that I don't like a lot of cymbal work, you know. And it took me, you know, that time to sort of study records and listen. I remember listening to a Brian Ferry record and going, no cymbals. That's why I like this record, you know. Right. So some of these things you think I should know right out of the gate, but, you know, you learn as you go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you know, as string players, again, classically trained string players, you know, we're so focused on, for example, tone production, which I would imagine a lot of singers are too, you know. And then when it's all of a sudden like, that's a great example. Like, how do you tell the drummer what you want? It's like, I have no idea, you know, I still have no idea how to tell the drummer what I want. I think it's like half the battle is like knowing what I don't know.
Don't want.
Yeah. Or what I don't want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now, but how do you write your music, and do you play other instruments? Because I thought there was a mention of guitar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a guitar player first. Those were the first lessons. No, that's not true. My first lessons were piano, which I think almost every musician I know that was the case. Then I switched to guitar, and I studied guitar very seriously for quite a few years, and was oddly, because I never thought I had it, being groomed to be a classical guitar player and a performing classical guitar player. And I just knew it wasn't the core of what I wanted to do. The training was amazing. And I think my hands as a finger picker are that of a classical guitar player. At least my right hand has the thumb that, I'm always trying to get all my finger pickers to use. And so I write on guitar, piano, but the artists that I connected with were artists who sang and played.
Got you.
So the two and the writing with the two together are always part of where the songs are coming from is the instrument as well as the melodic work as a singer.
So that is very different in some ways than in the sense that I'm guessing there might be singers that work with you that maybe don't have instrumental skills, or do they all?
Absolutely. And I think it's a shame. I think every singer should be playing an instrument. Doesn't mean you have to play it on stage, but you should be connected to an instrument to kind of enhance your understanding of what's going on, harmonically.
Especially a chordal instrument like guitar or piano, right? I mean,
I don't know why, getting back to Berklee a little bit, although I don't need to talk about Berklee too much. I don't know why everyone is not required to learn piano, and they're actually not required to learn piano.
Right.
Master, for goodness sake,
Right. Well, I guess that speaks to the parallel again for me as a single note player on a bowed string instrument. In that sense, it's like the instrument of the voice, and that we don't necessarily have to learn anything about harmony, and we can just work on melody. Right. So I can imagine that would be a big. Some kind of gap that needs to get crossed for so many young artists.
And I think for me, when I crossed that, because first studying as a classical guitar player, where my mentor was a big shot in the classical guitar world, and we never spoke about harmony. We never spoke about what makes up these chords that are actually being formed by my hands.
Right.
Nothing. I had to start learning that on my own, learning that, there I was with my Joni Mitchell songbook going, oh, that's a chord. It's got 3 notes in it, all self-taught until I, started to really train and took, designed my own training really. And I can't imagine what my life as a composer would be like if I had started that earlier. Let's put it that way. It's the oddity of training classically and not actually having any, harmonic structure in the training.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's yet again another distinction, because even people who are trained classically on the piano, for example, or the guitar, they have the same kind of issue. It's like, wait, all this, I could have just known this was like a 1-4-5, and I didn't, but I just knew, well, that's awesome. I've got a lot of questions here for you. So many things I want to ask you, but I think I'd like to take a second just to jump into some of this record and maybe ask if there's one song you'd like for us to start with, maybe the title track, and maybe to just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, the title track is the oldest track on the record, and I wrote that song. First of all, it was sort of a breakthrough in terms of my finger picking, since I know it's nice to talk about the stringed instrument and that work, and I just remember sitting for a long time trying to get the movement of the right hand to cover the left hand movement that I was doing, and when it finally sort of clicked in, and then the finger picking started to roll in a way that represented the river, which was the lyrics that I had written, and that was sort of a nice breakthrough for me. So a number of songs that came after that, really, I had sort of cracked the code on how to work the two hands of the instrument to get what I needed. The song was really written when I was raised. My child was probably 10 at that point, and it was sort of a challenging moment as a working artist, mother, parent, really. And I just felt a little like sometimes I felt adrift, and I tried to talk about it in the song and say, I'm gonna hang in there. It's gonna be okay. Talking to myself and my child. Yeah.
And that's part of you see this river. I guess you talked a little bit about how the river is a little bit of an analogy for life, and just, I think I want to get back into that after we listen to a nice segment from I'm sorry. I just looked at it and now I forgot. You See This River. So we're gonna listen to part of You See This River. Awesome. So are you playing guitar on the record as well?
Oh yeah, I'm playing guitar on every track. Yeah, and a little piano too. Yeah.
I think your guitar playing is beautiful, and your singing is stunning and really individual. I think it's very
Thank you.
individual.
Thank you.
And I respect that so much because I can relate to the desire as a musician to go both ways, to be able to do a certain thing really well, like whether it's classical or whether it's to cop this kind of sound, and also to pursue a unique individual artistic voice. I wonder if you'd be willing to talk at all about how you see that.
Yeah.
That issue.
When I first was coming up as a musician, I was trying a lot of different things, and I'm trying to figure out how to voice this without going on too long. There's a short version of this and a long version of this, and I was so mesmerized by all the sounds that I could make. Partly just my own ear and my own instrument, and particularly as a singer, but also some of the training that I had, because my mentor really trained me to be able to make different sounds so that I could make a living. And when I left New England and I came to New York, and there was all this session work to be that chameleon and really exercise my craft in that way, I was intoxicated by the skill that it involved, and by all the incredibly skilled people around me that I was working with, who all had that same kind of agility. And even though my writing kept going, my writing was always there, my playing was always there, I was always doing my own shows, but I think that not only the gratification of that freelance world where I felt like my skills were validated, and it was fun. It was fun. And I was actually a musician making a living. But the pursuit of my own sound was always there. But I think for some personal reasons, raising a child and, family life and that kind of thing, I kind of I controlled it. And I don't think you can't control that process of discovering your own, pardon the cliche, but authentic sound. You have to kind of just meander and go down that rabbit hole and go down that, that path to the dark woods or whatever it's going to take to sort of experiment and find, and as a singer, to feel these different sounds inside you, maybe do a little emulation of somebody. Does it work? Does it sound like me? This kind of thing. And I think because of my personal circumstances and the opportunities I had as a freelancer, I think I controlled it a little too much, and hence this is why it took me this much time to really, I want to say, get back to what was my authentic sort of connection to music, and that was roots music, stringed instruments, rich harmonies, poetry. All that was there right in the beginning as a teenager, and I fled from it in order to sort of prove myself and prove my stature as a working musician. And when I finally got back to that, and I sort of kicked off, it's like, sure, I can do a pop R&B song and get paid for it, but maybe that's not actually who I am. So it was I want to say, I can't overstate, it was an absolutely thrilling experience to finally let go and get back to my roots, and then say, what version of that sound is me, And I'm going to give myself as much time and as much experimentation as I can. And there were many, many tracks, many, many recordings, many, many shows where I was trying this, trying that, finally coming to a sound that, distilled down to what felt, truly mine, something I could offer that sounded like me. Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of a heroic story in a way too, or I'm imagining that your story has been, I don't know your whole story, but I feel like it's sort of heroic in the sense that you started in New York. You arrived in New York when you were somewhat younger, and you did everything you needed to latch on in New York. Then you had kids or a
One
kid,
kid.
one
One.
kid.
Yeah.
During which time I can only imagine that you had to make a lot of choices, and and then
Juggle. Yeah.
yeah, and then and then you're now maybe your kid has grown, but the whole time I get the sense that you've been being an artist this whole time, and not only making a living in a lot of diverse ways, but now you're making this beautiful original statement. It seems very heroic to me, in just the sense of like you're enduring and staying true to this kind of mission, and staying the course, but also doing all these other things. And I want to talk about those other things you're doing. But can we listen to another tune? Could you maybe suggest another tune on "You See This River"?
Yeah. So we might go to the second track on the album, which is "Better Times Are Coming," which is not, which was this. It's this. I went online looking for public domain songs to see if I could, to see what I connected with, and I found this song by Stephen Foster that the McGarrigles had done, and the McGarrigles are heroes of mine, and so I took the seed of that song, and then I repositioned it. I wrote some new lyrics, and I came up with some new music to sort of reflect what maybe we're going through in our country at this point. It's a song that was originally written during the Civil War.
Awesome. Great. I wonder if you could. I wonder if you could just reflect a little bit on, what it was like when you were younger, when you were trying to survive in New York. You talked a little bit about that, and maybe what it was like when you went through a period of raising your child, and then what it's like now.
Yeah. I was absolutely terrified. I don't know how I found the as my friend Amanda Homey says, the courage to actually move to New York. From I left Virginia, I moved to New England. New England felt kind of at home and easy. When I came to New York, I was just sweating every day. Like, what the heck am I doing here? I came with a writing partner, but that soon ended. But I did have maybe 3 or 4 colleagues, 3 or 4 friends who I asked for help. And when I first moved to New York, I had already been a working musician in New England, but I had to step back, cleaned houses for a year. Then I finally got a teaching job at the new school. So I kind of had my little platform from which to survive. And then it was about, I'll sing anywhere, I'll play anywhere. You want me, I'll come. Buy me lunch, working for free to get my confidence up, to network, to meet people. And the first probably 3-4 years were a little crazy. And then after that, things started to click as far as my reputation as a freelancer. And so I was always trying to juggle the freelance life with writing more songs. Was I getting any songs that meant anything? Push. And I did reach a point, and my husband at the time and we put out a record. We had songs we believed in, and then I got pregnant. And so I remember we were doing a showcase for Sony, and I had to wear an outfit that didn't show that I was 3 months pregnant, and that was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And after that showcase, I looked at my husband. I was like, maybe we have to rethink this activity, because I didn't think I could pull it off. And it was about that time that some tours were being offered to me, and was I going to go on tour? What was I going to do? Leave my kid at home? But all those choices that we all know people have to make. It's just that most people, they're making a choice, not to go out to dinner with their friends. And for working musicians, it's like, am I going to leave town for 6 months? Right. And it was I couldn't do it. So that whole period of raising my daughter was, thankfully, I continued to have all this freelance life. And what I did was I thought to myself, I'm just going to try and keep this art alive. Let me just keep it alive in whatever way I can, and I had advice from other people. I remember my cousin, who's a mathematician, said, when her baby came, she, while the baby napped, she'd try and solve one step in a proof. Let's see how far I can get in 2 hours. And that's what my life became, is the time management of trying to be able to no longer indulge myself as an artist, but try to practice flipping the switch. I have my own time now for 4 hours. Flip that switch and try and get something done. None of this. I'm going to sit here and wait for the muse to come. Went out the window. Went out the window. You just try to build your skills so that you're this new version of your skills, so that you can just get in there and focus as quickly as possible when you have that opportunity. And I have to say, that's an amazing skill to develop. It's something that even for the 19-year-olds that I'm, who don't have kids and don't have any pressure, I'm telling them, please learn how to, just get in there and make an appointment to be creative, because I think this myth of creativity, I mean, it's great, but it's not practical. And plus, if you read, there's so many books about sort of the genius artists and how they work and all this stuff. Well, it turns out they practice, it turns out they just like make an appointment and they sit down at 9 a.m. and they just go to work and they get something or they don't. I think we've all discovered that. So that's what I discovered during that period. And that was the beginning of my better work starting, when I had less time. I mean, which for me was really profound. Yeah.
When you're doing that creative work, I mean, in a way, I mean, what comes up for me is that it's like it feels like it's more of an investment, a long-term investment, right? It's not like, okay, I got a gig Friday night, I'm going to make $350 if I go out and sing at a wedding somewhere, or whatever, right, a session or whatever kind of freelance things where it's like immediate money. It's going to help you take care of your child and like pay the rent in New York, where it's like everything's expensive, so you were still able to like carve out. I think for a lot of people, excuse me, like that's almost like impossible to do all three of those things. I mean, to be like a parent and then like, and then make money as an artist, and then, but also still make time to be creative. For what? For just for the sake of it? Were you thinking, well, I just need to keep making work just to feel good about myself, or because someday I'm going to put out an album or something else?
It's a good question, because there are moments when you're in that kind of period where you're like, why am I doing this? First of all, you have to do it. If you've got that, if you have that little, it's like that Rilke quote that everybody has now confiscated about, like, ask yourself, do you have to write? And if the answer is no, then like get the hell out, because it's going to be hell. But if you can't live without it, and this is the thing, you just have to get in there and create and work that process, because you don't feel good unless you do that, And so that continued, and also it was a kind of a solace as well from, this is all a little bit too much, and so I could go to my art and carve out that time, and it was gratifying, but I just couldn't not do it. And I certainly felt also like I wanted, if I can just keep active, I can stay in the game. And at some point, I know I'm going to have more time. At some point, my kid's going to be grown. We don't know if grown means 14, 15, 18, 23, but there's going to be a time when I have more time and I have more freedom. And I'm going to get myself ready, And, I have one of my closest friends is a filmmaker, and she went through the same thing, documentary filmmaker. And she was going, well, why should I do this? I go out and I work on this little film, and I spend all the money I make on the film for the babysitter. It's like, it's not about that. It's about staying in the game. Yeah.
Wow. And do you find that a lot of artists kind of have a struggle to, or let me put it a different way. I've heard at least more than once from people, particularly in New York, that like you can't be a creative artist and a studio musician. And like using studio musician in like the pejorative, you talked about it in, I forget the words that you described, but it was more like, but you seem to have a lack of pretense, which I find refreshing, because you don't seem to have any problem with like, I'm going to go do this studio gig, and that's cool challenge. And also, I've got my own thing, and that's important to me too.
Right.
Is there anything else? Or I mean, is that how you feel about it, or do you have any other? Is that
I
true? Do
think,
you find that attitude a lot, or not? I mean,
oh, I definitely find that attitude. And, back in the day of the really, really busy session work in New York, people were always talking about that, about if you were going to break out of the session scene and you were going to do, your own record where you're going to get signed and all this stuff. And the truth is that I never felt really comfortable in the mainstream music business anyway. So, and the freelance work that I was often hired to do was very eclectic, sort of eccentric sounds anyway. It's like I'm the girl that was hired to sound like Ricky Lee Jones. So, it's not going to be that far a walk over here to the kind of music that I loved anyway. But it is a challenge. I do remember when we had a home studio, and a couple years had passed, and we were going to try and do some new tracks, and I got on the mic, and we weren't getting the vocal, and my husband said, there's something not quite happening, right? And I'm like, yeah, I think I've been doing a few too many sessions, in the past few months, so I've lost a little something in the way I use my mouth, that because they want me to straighten out. So you do have to be quite aware of when your singer for hire, your musician for hire head is starting to prevent you from, I want to say just be yourself, but let go.
yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Let go as an artist to discover. And I will say that the session world slowed down, and that was a good thing for creating these tracks. That was a good thing, that I could move away from that. Now those sessions are much less, and the fact that I could just make the sounds that felt truly mine for most of the time was essential. Yeah.
And how did you replace the session work with other, gainful employment? I mean, what, I guess teaching, or what else? I mean,
Yeah. Well, Berkeley came along. I've been at Berkeley for 14 years. And because I had been a smart girl with my jingle money, I had stashed away enough so that I can, between the teaching at Berkeley and a little bit of other teaching and a little bit of session work, and what we say corporate jobs.
like weddings and parties in New York. They call those club dates in New York also.
Yeah, they call them club dates in New York. Although I'm not really a club date singer. I have one job with a band that was put together by my surgeon when I had an illness that I went through, and he recruited me for his band. So I do about 8 of those shows a year. Anyway, I digress. I think, you piece it together. And we played it kind of smart while I was making quite a bit more money. So now that I'm making much less money, I just, everything is kind of in its place, working, so that I can be an artist and a mentor to the youngsters, and it works. Yeah, it works.
Well, and it might seem kind of boring, but I'm fascinated with how did you, or how do you? I guess it's different now because you've got a network from many years of being in New York. Mm-hmm. But how did you go about trying to get those gigs that paid the bills, even if you don't feel like they're like the most quote unquote like sexy gigs or whatever, or like the most creative gigs? Like, they paid the bills, they're valuable, and for a lot of people, just to survive in New York is so hard. And I feel like a lot of young people and older people, they don't like. Are you sort of? Do you like go to work and say, okay, I'm going to go get some gigs, or was it just like, well, I'm just going to show up and just say hi to people and hope that people call me, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, a combination. I mean, you really had to show, just like it is now, you had to show up at whatever shows and gigs and call the music houses and socialize with people who were doing that kind of work. And it was kind of a one step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, just this weird sort of exploration of how to network to find people.
But you were calling, but you were also proactively calling music houses.
Proactively calling.
What did you say when you called them?
Well, you have a reel. You have a reel of your, and that's why when you hit New York, you say, "I'll sing anything for free. Just let me take the tape afterwards," you know. And so you slowly build your reel, and you keep redoing your reel when you have a new, you know, a new spot or a new record that you sing on. You know, even some tiny little record, some, you know, band that I can't even remember now. And then you call. I'd like to stop by and bring my reel, you know. But honestly, I got super lucky as well because I had a couple of friends who started working in those businesses as writers and producers, and they were like, "We're going to bring you in. We know you can do the work. You're a nobody, but we're going to bring you in and give you a shot." And those early jobs did lead to people who didn't know me, you know, bringing me in. And I think, you know, other artists like familiar with this artist Mark Cohn, who had a big hit on his very first record, Walking in Memphis. Well, we sang jingles together. He sat me down like really soon after I hit New York and said, "I'm going to give you a list, and you tell them I told you to come." You know, people, you know, the people were very generous, and so it does take that incredible tenacity as a freelancer, just like it does to get gigs as an artist. But I also really, really benefited from the kindness of my compadres. Yeah. Who took a risk.
But you would offer to people, you would say, I'll record for you for free.
Yep. Yep. It's like, okay, give me $35. I'll take $35. Just give me the track afterwards, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah. And there was about a year and a half of that. Yeah. While I was cleaning houses.
And I want to follow up on that after we listen to some more music and ask about how you're pursuing your work as a leader or your work as an artist as well. Is there another track we can listen to off "You See This River"?
Yes. Now, you want to go with the quasi-political track?
Oh, whatever. Yeah, anything
Okay.
that you feel inspired to share. Totally.
Yeah. So we could listen to "Buy That Thing." This is a track. So there was something going around on Facebook, which occasionally is incredibly useful, right? Facebook. It was a teenager, and he had gotten a camera pinned to. He probably had a sponsor to help him with this. We pinned a camera to his shirt, and first he went to I think the first stop was a liquor store, and he tried to buy some vodka, and no, you know, I think it was 15. No, of course you can't buy any vodka. He probably had a fake ID, but they spotted him. Then he went to the 7-Eleven, and he tried to buy a lotto ticket. No, can't buy the lotto ticket. And then he went to a second convenience store and tried to buy, I don't know what porn is in a convenience store these days, but there was something, you know. No, he couldn't buy that, underage. And then he went to the gun show. And I'm pretty sure it was in my home state of Virginia, which is why I latched onto this story. And he went to the gun show, and he left with a gun.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was what prompted the song.
Awesome. Great. And I want to remind viewers that you can check out all of You See This River at Janie Barnett's website. And I'm looking it up right now. That's janiebarnett.com. Janie Barnett with 2 T's. janiebarnett.com is where you can go to purchase You See This River.
And by the way, it is true that it's just clips on the website. So if you do want to hear full tracks, so you can really be sure, you can go to Spotify and listen to full tracks. But we're all hoping, all us artists out here, that you listen and get your commitment to independent music, and then you go and purchase it.
Absolutely. Well, this record, I mean, I think also because it looks like there's a lot of beautiful artwork, and there's some lyrics that I'm guessing that you have published on maybe on the liners and that sort of
Yeah,
thing. Is that true?
all the lyrics that are, I mean, I actually printed a real CD and printed all the lyrics, but you can find all the lyrics on the website as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the artwork is my childhood friend Cindy Kane, who's a painter on Martha's Vineyard. So I kept it in the family.
Yeah, this is the kind of physical product I would want to have, because it seems so beautiful. And just, I mean, for any, a lot of my listeners, I'm always trying to find these, because there's a lot of artists that are, I see it as being one, all tied together as far as the struggle to survive in the
Mm.
business of music and the struggle to get your creative works out there. And that's again why I feel like you're such a great role model and inspiration. And so I really want to encourage people to go to your website so they can see how well you are presenting your work, because I think that when work is presented with such care and quality, it really speaks to the value of that work, and that's what I see at your website. It's also the value that I got from just even the promoter that you hired,
Mm-hmm.
who was in touch with me, Maddie, and I think it's at Two Ships That
Yeah.
Pass.
Yes.
And I'm curious about her, but obviously you're part of the driving force behind promoting your career. And even though sometimes you're hiring other people to help you, it's clear to me that you're really involved because of the pains that you've taken in the copy. I mean, in the lyrics, and it's not just the lyrics to your songs, but it's like the quotes, the things you say about the music. It's the artwork on the website. It's the fact that you're creating all these other projects, like the Blue Room, which is a collaborative production house, essentially. Is that right? Could you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about
Yeah.
production,
Well,
the Blue
I
Room?
mean, it's an idea that's developing now, and my feeling it came out of this idea that the musicians that were participating on this record were they're so gifted, and I have so much respect for them, and I've known most of them for many, many years, and they have spent so much time. I mean, I parceled out a little money, but the money compared to the hours and hours that they committed to working on this, really I think of it as a really a collaborative piece of work, not, and that's why I didn't put my picture on the cover, because it wasn't about just, this artist and, kind of telling everybody what to do. Although I had a vision, this whole last few years of collaboration with other artists and with my community here in New York and in Brooklyn has been so profound in terms of how we've all affected each other and inspired each other. And it's my hope going forward that will also lend itself to other projects like music for film or collective performance space, or there's a lot of people talking about that in Brooklyn in general, but that will branch out into other ways of working together. Yeah.
That's great. And what is your plan with this project, and what have you done so far, if you'd be willing to share it, or what do you plan to do in order to try to get your creative work out there, or maybe whether that would be performing as a band leader or with your band, or whether it would be getting your music, I don't know, licensed or streamed. Do you have any plans in terms of that?
Yeah, I mean the shows are starting to. I'm starting to book some shows that will kind of finally represent. I'll be out there representing this record. And I've contacted some good friends through the years. I'll be doing some opening acts for them. People that either didn't have kids when I had kids, or somehow they managed to push through as artists and keep their work going. So I'm looking forward to that. One of the biggest things that I finally secured is we're doing a show here in New York at City Winery in December.
Wow.
It was a show that I was offered as an artist, and I said I'm thrilled to do this, but I'd like it to be not just my show, but I'd like to curate the show and bring in some other artists to participate in the show. And the vision is, again, this idea of collaboration, that I can introduce people to other artists, and of course I'm looking forward to doing my own songs with the musicians that I'm collaborating on. But that it's a concept that can grow, and that we can do it over time, and we can do it at other venues, and bring this sort of urban Americana to other parts of the country. And so that's the vision. We're going to start, and let's see how we do. There's a project called the Transatlantic Sessions that Jerry Douglas from Union Station is sort of curates, and all the wonderful Americana artists that are out there now have been participating, and people from Ireland come over, and everyone's on stage at the same time, kind of coming and going and intermingling, and I just love those kind of shows. Some of my heroes, the Punch Brothers, they did it this summer too with other artists, and that's really my vision. The core of my vision for my music, that it be sort of help to bring other artists along as well. But I'm also opening for my friend Paula Cole in December, and that's going to be fun. We say yes. We try to say yes to whatever we can. I think that's the goal. That's the idea. Don't say. I said no for a lot of years. Now I'm saying yes.
And do you surround yourself with I mean, obviously you have some people that you contract out, or maybe you have agents on commission, or people that you hire for a certain length of a promotion. I mean, is there anything you would say about the process? I mean, what do you do for yourself, and what do you delegate, or are you willing to share any of that?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, you want to be reaching out and getting the social media thing going and connecting. Like now, I from my own page on Facebook now, I choose a song a night, and I talk about this, not my own songs, just songs I love out there. And I've been posting a song a night, and I've been doing it ever since pretty close to when my record came out. And it's kind of fascinating, the dialogue that's been going on. This is something that sort of helped me to generate activity in my own mind about, how a voice I want to have in the creative community.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just post a link to the song, and you don't. It's not like a Facebook Live video or anything like that.
No. I find the track. I think the first one I posted was a Punch Brothers song, and I usually talk about it a little, and I post some of the lyrics that I think are special. Sometimes, admittedly, I'm posting it for one person who I want to send a message to, but usually it's about the music. I think there are, back to the real question, there are things that an artist can do for themselves, connecting with other people in the business that, in terms of outreach and fans, of course, and really connecting with your fans and spending that time after shows, the extra hour to talk to people about their lives and your lives. It's what people in the country music business, world have been doing forever, and the rest of us should have always been doing it. And then there are some things that, someone else needs to do for you to get it right, reaching out, and people who have, that's their thing. That's their work, their expertise. To pick up that phone and call that promoter, it's much better if it comes from someone else, as long as that someone else really understands who you are as an artist. I think that's essential.
Interesting. Well, in your case, it certainly worked, but I'll say I couldn't find the seam between the promoter and you, and maybe that's because, well, I don't know if it's because you're such a eloquent writer and you're such a master of the word, or if it's that your promoter just did such a great job of disguising and placing, and I mean, and I would say that, for example, if it was you that was contributing all those quotes, I think there's a lot of people out there that can't write as eloquently as you do, and that's a really specific skill that you have. And you're also a lyricist, and so I guess like a poet and a communicator or whatever, But I think for a lot of musicians, there might be some skills that maybe some musicians are more organized. And they are good at doing outreach because they're good with spreadsheets, but other ones are better with writing the words and
Exactly.
making a great presentation. Like myself, I couldn't coordinate like good cover art, I would have to delegate that. Whereas I could imagine, and I'm just totally imagining that you might have been like really sitting down and looking through the pictures with your friend Kate, and.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So I guess
I
some of it's just personal, right?
right, and we each of us, not just in the arts, but in everything, you have to recognize what your passions are and what your strengths are and what you
Right.
have to delegate. It's in family life, it's in
Yeah.
business, it's in everything. You just
Right.
want to sort of know yourself,
Gotcha.
to as fully as you can,
Yeah.
so you know what you care about, what you can handle. I mean, look at what Ani DeFranco did. She just built this empire with her own label that no one could have seen. The DIY world was happening for musicians, but no one had done what she did, and I could never do what she did. She just had, it wasn't that she was determined. It was like she was good at that and she had a passion for it as
Got it.
well,
Got it.
and she got to a certain point she could start to delegate, but you got to know, what your strengths are. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I wonder if there's anything else that you'd like to share today before we wrap up, and maybe we can go out on another track. Is there anything? I'm sure people would love to know where else they could find you on Facebook. Is it Janie Barnett on Facebook?
So I, of course, like everyone in the universe these days, I am on Facebook as Janie Barnett, but also Janie Barnett and Blue Room has its own page where I post all the shows that we started to have, and some freelance shows that I'm doing too that I care about. And my little nightly music post, which I would love people to interact with. It's really fun if people respond. So you have to actually go to that page and like the page, follow the page or whatever it is. And then, the shared music starts to happen. And I'm trying to keep the website updated so when there are shows in people's areas, they're going to see the listings. I mean, it's just now starting to really happen, so I'm going to start being a little more diligent. The thing that I've been really amazed about, which is the one thing that I haven't had a chance to say, is just that the independent music lovers and the DJs and people like you who are musicians but are also trying to promote other ideas about creativity is just incredible to me. How much is out there that is really people really committed to getting it right. All the DJs that have played this record over the summer that had never heard of me, and sure, a quote from Paula Cole or Cliff Eberhardt really helped, but they took the time to really listen to somebody they had never heard of, and that to me is, in this day and age where there's so much music out there, it's incredible to me. I think those people are real heroes as far as advocating for the independent artist. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really great that there are podcasts and more independent channels where people can more easily produce, whatever they want, and talk about whatever they want. Again, I would have to say that because when I first got the note from Maddie at Two Sheps Will Pass, you're one of the people that helps you get the word out. I assume mostly reaching out to podcasters and bloggers and even small ones like me, because I'm not a big deal. My brother Lewis, he has the School of Greatness, which is one of the top podcasts, but my podcast is pretty niche, So but at first I thought, I was like, well, this is a singer, I don't even know, But then I read the email and I was so impressed with it that I came back to it a day later. I was like, wait a second, because I actually shared the email. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but I do music business consulting. So I have a group called Music Biz Mastermind, and I have musicians who are clients of mine, and we have a secret Facebook group where I inspire them and kind of help them build their businesses. And so I actually shared aspects of this pitch letter to them to say, like, look, this is how you do it.
My God!
If you're gonna, because you get so many like crappy. You get so many people like, hey, put me on, or hey, like, check out my music, and like without any consideration. You know what I mean? I'm sure you get it all the time as a professor and as a veteran of the music scene, where just maybe a younger or less inexperienced person will just come up and just like, maybe they don't realize, but it's sort of disrespectful. You're like, I don't have time. You're a stranger. Why are you asking me for something? in like completely like inappropriate way. Like there's the right way to ask, and then there's like the wrong way to ask. So
Right.
the way that your promoter reached out to me, it was like really appropriate because it referenced our mutual friend Mark Simos, and in fact they
Yes.
put Mark's name in the subject. Per Mark Simos, and for everybody listening here, you can go and listen for 2 episodes. It was a 2-parter that I did with Mark Simos on the Creative Strings podcast. I can't remember. It was around episode 15 or 18. I should be able to pull the number out. But she referenced that, which made this kind of relevant connection. I was like, wait, it's about Mark. And then really referenced, spoke to me directly and showed like a certain degree of respect. And then, as I said, there was all this care taken to speak about your work and to show the obvious, like the seriousness that's been put
Mhm.
into your work that makes it a lot harder to disregard or like not. And so I literally circled back around to it like 2 days later. I was like, wait a second. After sharing it with my music, I was like, maybe there's a reason to put this person on. I was like, I like this person's work. Like, this is amazing. Wait, she plays guitar. She's on. We got to do this, But sorry, that was a long-winded story.
It's really interesting to me because when you're going to spend some money and hire someone, sometimes people just start throwing money around, and you do have to, just like with your own work, you do have to think. It's like any relationship. You got to be thoughtful about it. Like, does this person get me? Could I sit with them for an hour and not be like uncomfortable? Can we be in each other's pockets for a few months and really, be some kind of family and like-minded? It's a very important choice. So I'm so delighted to hear what you're saying about this. Yeah.
I'm sure it's always painful when we have to make those investments, but hopefully it makes it a little less painful to know that it's paying off. Well, let's leave our listeners with one more song from "You See This River" by Janie Barnett, and maybe you could. Before you do, I just want to thank you so much for spending your time and just tell you that I'm just super
Thank you so
impressed.
much.
And
I mean,
really
it's so
inspired
gratifying to have a
by
real
you and your
conversation about all of these processes, and knowing that you've done it all as well. A deep musician, and part of the community and the teaching community as well. So it's really wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I think we'll
So
go
give us
with
one more that we can listen to.
"Wrap Me Up," which is a song I started in Italy. I went on a retreat with one of my songwriting heroes, Gretchen Peters, who everyone should check out. She's a deep artist, has had a lot of cuts with other artists, but she's also a deep artist herself. Beautiful records that she makes on her own. And so this is a song that I wrote while I was there, and it also features her husband, Barry Walsh, on piano.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janie Barnett. Make sure everybody you
I
go
have
to
to stop you.
jamiebarnett.com.
Which they'll edit.
And, yeah. Sorry, Janie Barnett. Yeah, no, thank you. You caught me. Sorry. I'm really tongue-tied today. I'm sorry about that. Justin, you're going to catch this edit.
It's been happening since I was 6, so don't worry about it.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Janie Barnett. Everybody make sure to go to Janie Barnett. That's 2 T's. Janie with a Janie. JanieBarnett.com, and find her on Facebook at Janie Barnett and Blue Room. And show your love to this great role model and creative artist and survivor. And she continues to survive and float another day. No doubt about that. We're going to go out on this track from the beautiful album, You See This River. Thanks again, Janie. All right. Well, you're a trooper. I appreciate it. I know it's long, and we'll probably. Oh, it's my pleasure. I really admire you so very much, and I know that my oldest child, my daughter, Cammie, who's 20, I know it's going to mean so much to her and so many young women that are trying to make it in the music business. Not that I'm trying to make it about that, but I think it's also about that, and I think it's really inspiring, from that vantage point as well. So my hat's off to you, and I hope that as I continue to grow, I can endure as you have, and as gracefully and beautifully.
I did. When I got the email that we were going to do this, I went and I looked you up, and first I saw that you had taught at Berkeley for a while. It sounds like you're not there now, right?
Yeah, I taught there for 3 years when I was in New York, and I left New York and Berkeley to be close to my kid.
Oh, wow!
Now I'm in
everybody's
Asheville,
favorite
North Carolina.
town, and my favorite town that I've never been to. So, but I, listened to your playing online as well. So, I mean, a very deep musician. It was a pleasure to listen to that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I will reach back out to Maddie if that's the easiest for you, just to get like photos or links, or and if it's possible to get like the tracks or whatever. And is it okay with you if we share
definitely,
long excerpts from the songs in the podcast? Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. And I'll have my team kind of coordinate and stuff and make sure that we don't cross any lines, but I don't think we would. I think as long as we have the spirit, you're cool with photos and music and sharing. And as I told Maddie, I spend a considerable amount of effort, given what I have and resources, to do some ad campaigns and push it out. So I feel confident that at least we'll be able to get you at least a couple thousand views, downloads, etc. At least from a sort of targeted market.
That's
people
wonderful. That's
we do have a lot of Americana.
That's really
folks,
exciting. Thank you so much. Really. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay good and stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
And take care. Let me know if I can ever help. All right. Yep. Take care. Bye.